Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Bible in 1 year with the preacher's husband. Today we're talking about Numbers 11, 12, and 13. Numbers chapter 11, 12, and 13. And we start out at the very beginning with whining, and more whining. And I mean, at this point with all the whining, I think this is probably about what Moses felt like right here. This is what Moses felt like. He probably felt like kindergarten cop at this point. But the first verses here in chapter 11, they establish a complaint pattern that you're going to see throughout chapter 11 all the way through chapter 25. It's going to be the same pattern. And the first thing is the complaint. The second thing that happens is divine punishment for being a whiny. And then number 3 is naming the place after some aspect of the event that happens here. So right off the bat, the fiery judgment of God here led to the place being named Taberah, or Blaze, meaning blaze. So as they go, they're naming these places after the events that happened and the punishment that they endure from doing this. We get to verse 4, and this it struck home for me. It says, the riffraff among them had a strong craving for other food. The riffraff. Oh, my Uncle Dean used to talk about all that riffraff, and we'll get out of the riffraff. And it just kind of, I looked up the definition in this commentary, and it basically said that it was referring to a mixed crowd of Israelites, including descendants of Jacob as well as others who had left Egypt in the Exodus. Of course it does. That's who it's referring to, the riffraff. But they're referring specifically to the whiners, the complainers, the ones that are stirring up a stink and stirring up controversy. That's riffraff. That's what riffraff is. So we got some riffraff going on. So they want food. They want meat. They want lots and lots of meat. They're whining, and they're basically saying, look, we came all the way from Egypt where they gave us free fish. But now here all we got is this manna stuff. So Moses asked God, why have you done this? Why have you caused this much trouble? Why have you done this to me? Are you angry with me or something, God? Did I conceive all these people? Did I give birth to them so that you can tell me, carry them at your breast as a nanny carries a baby to the land that you swore to give their fathers? And that's why that reminded me of kindergarten cop. Right there, for some reason, I could just see Moses with that expression on his face at this point. I can't carry all these people by myself. That's what he says in verse 14. And I remember the words of my uncle again. I can't do it all. I can't do it all. Oh, goodness. So the Lord answers Moses, and he says, you're going to appoint 70 elders and officers for the people. And I'm going to take some of the spirit who's on you, and I'm going to put the spirit on them, and they will help bear the burden of the people so that you do not have to bear it by yourself. Again, we are talking about delegating. All right, he's going to be delegating his authority some more. So we get to chapter 11, verse 31 and 32. What happens is the people are screaming for food and says, we're going to give him some food. And Moses is like, how am I going to do that? And God says, don't worry, I got this. In a matter similar to the wind that blew back the waters of the Red Sea in Exodus, a divinely driven wind brought a large quantity of quail across the camp. And there were quail everywhere. They were laying everywhere. People were gathering up quail all over the place. And that quail lasted for days and days. The problem was they ended up catching a plague. And it might have been because of the food poisoning that they got, because those quail laid there in the sun baking for so long. I would say they probably ended up with some sort of food poisoning is what this plague is referring to. So there's their punishment for that. And you get to verse 35. 34. So they named that place Kibroth Hattaavah, because there they buried the people who had craved the meat. So there's your third part of the complaint there, where they named the place that they were after their punishment. So we get to chapter 12. We have Miriam and Aaron start rebelling against Moses. And Moses is probably just like, oh my goodness. And they say it's because he married a Cushite woman. And I was amused by the fact that it said in parentheses, for he had married a Cushite woman. Of course he did. Of course he married a Cushite woman. Ah, goodness gracious. I mean, Zipporah, she was a Cushite woman. Did he marry another Cushite woman? That's the question here. What did he marry a second Cushite woman? Maybe while Zipporah was back in Midian visiting her father Jethro. Maybe Zipporah had died and Moses married another. Or maybe Zipporah was the Cushite woman. Maybe they're one and the same. Who knows? But that wasn't the real reason. The real reason was Moses' authority as God's primary spokesman. I think there might have been a bit of jealousy there. And verse 10 here, as the cloud moved away from the tent, Miriam's skin suddenly became diseased. There's number 2, right? There's that divine punishment. Resembling snow, when Aaron turned towards her, he saw that she was diseased. My Lord, he says, please don't hold against us the sin we have so foolishly committed. So he realized that he was wrong to doubt Moses and to be ill about this. He says, God says, let her be confined outside the camp for 7 days. After that, she may be brought back in. And that was consistent with God's rules to begin with. That's what's going to happen if you end up with a skin disease. You got to go and be quarantined, so to speak, outside the camp for 7 days. So it happened. And then in chapter 13, we are scouting out Canaan. This is the land of milk and honey that God has promised Moses and Aaron and their people, the Israelites. Well, this is the climax to the first cycle of rebellions here. And that is the climax of this is the refusal of the people to enter the promised land. The people adopted the majority report of 10 of 12 spies here, that the inhabitants of the land and their fortified cities were just too strong for them to conquer. The rejection of the land was a rejection of God and his blessings. But not everyone rejected it. You know, here's the report that they gave about the land of milk and honey. They came in and said, yeah, it's indeed flowing with milk and honey, and there's a lot of fruit, but the problem is the people living there are really strong. The cities are large and very fortified. They even saw descendants of Anak there. Well, who is Anak? Well, Anak, they were known as being a strong and tall race of people. They also were, it was said that they were descendants of Nephilim. So it says here, Caleb quieted the people in the presence of Moses and said, let's go up now and take possession of the land because we can certainly conquer it. Of course, Caleb and Joshua both said that was a good. They were the 2 yay-sayers. The other 10 were naysayers. They were like, no, they are way stronger than we are. And then here in verse 32 and 33 it says, all the people we saw in it are men of great size. They're referring to giants. We even saw the Nephilim there. The descendants of Anak came from the Nephilim. To ourselves we seemed like grasshoppers, and we must have seemed the same to them. So they saw them. They knew the Israelites. They saw them, and the Israelites said, we probably looked like grasshoppers then. We were so small. They were such huge people. And that is our word for the day. What else stood out to you? What just absolutely tickled your fancy that made you want to just ask a question or talk about something that I missed? Put it in the comment section and let's talk about it. Tomorrow we're going to talk about Numbers chapter 14 and Numbers chapter 15, and we're also going to add in there Psalm 90. That's right, Psalm 90. Numbers 14, 15, Psalm 90 for tomorrow. So tune in tomorrow for another episode of the Bible in 1 Year with the Preacher's Husband. Be sure to click that like button, that subscribe button, and also click the little jingle bell so you can get notified the next time I upload a video. And that will be tomorrow. We'll see you then. Peace.